What is going on, Itrad Fantasy Football League? We are back for another episode of the Itrad Fantasy Podcast. I'm here with my co-host, Commissioner Eddie Hernandez. Ed, anything you'd like to say to the league before we get started?
What's up, League? It's nice to be back on here. I had a little hiatus during the last episode. Mike filled in for me for the 10 minutes I watched. He did a decent job, but it's nice to be back here in my rightful seat here.
And then on the other hand, we got owner of the Diego Juniors. Diego, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm back.
So you guys know the deal. You know how this works. We're gonna get right into it. First we have power rankings. I'll start off. Last place. Unfortunately, for my flesh and blood here, I have Child Please at number 11. Would be 12, but we don't play ourselves, of course. Um, yeah, it's just been a rough go around. I mean, just some questionable picks in the draft combined with some unlucky injuries has found Tyler in pretty deep hole. He's got one win, so he's not winning this. He got the first win out of the way, but just a little rough for him right now. I mean, he's got good running backs, but he doesn't really have. He has Tank Dell as, I guess, would be his best wide receiver now, which isn't saying too much, but Ed, I'll let you take it away here.
So I also have Ty at my number 11 spot. But Ty, if you're listening, I don't want you to tune out just yet because it just so happens that I'm still a believer in your team. I mean, when you look at the trade that you and I made, listen, Leggett, I was pounding the drum for. Everyone said, oh, he's not going to do shit this week. Like, what do you think about Leggett? Like, listen, man, as long as the Red Rocket's out there, Leggett had 10 targets last week. He left money on the table. I mean, he only caught 6 of them. There was at least a 20-yard play, the potential for another touchdown. Listen, Deontay's the hot flash in the pan. Oh, yeah, I'm going to get peppered with targets. But Leggett, there's no saying just how high his ceiling is as long as Dalton is there. That team is always going to be playing from behind. So someone like that, when you think of down the stretch in fantasy, November and December, you want those ascending players. And I think Tank Dell, who's a little bit banged up, has gotten off to a slow start. He's going to follow suit the same way. I mean, Fields, I love Fields. Uh, that makes sense as to why you felt good moving Hurts. So, I think he's going to anchor the quarterback spot pretty well for you with his rushing ability. The reason I got you so suppressed right now is just the injuries. I mean, Jonathan Taylor, I don't think he's going to play this week. I think he probably misses another one, but we'll have to page Jesse Morris here to see what his prognosis is. Puka, the same thing. Me and Morris actually agree with, the PCL sprain. It's a tricky one to come back from, but at some point, say in the week 10 range, if he can anchor you down the stretch, I don't know if it's going to be enough to make the playoffs, but you're going to be a team that is going to sneak up on people and is going to upset people down the stretch. So as it stands right now with guys like Keenan Allen, Kyle Pitts hasn't shown a whole lot. You're kind of forced to start him. The flex is a mess for you right now. But I think if you play your cards right, a little bit better fortunes, I'm not writing you off completely yet. You could be the sleeper that takes this league by storm down the stretch. So hang strong.
Yeah, okay. Eddie's still playing White Knight. But I think Fields is just a cheat code in fantasy. If he starts every week, then he's going to be a good quarterback to have. Dude, Eddie's selling you like snake oil. The snake oil salesman with Leggett. Like he's gonna have Bryce Young back in the next, I don't know what. Like they're gonna have him come back. He was the first pick, bro. He's not gonna just throw him outside of the like. There's no reason to just keep him off the field. But as long as Bryce Young isn't playing, then I guess I have some faith to Leggett. But yeah, good luck, Tyler. That's all I gotta say.
Moving on, I have at number 10 my good friend Blood Brother, You Wish. So a big criticism of Wilson's team post-draft, hot off the press, was going 3 straight running backs in rounds 1 through 3. And I think showing now here in week 25 of the season, especially considering out of the 3 running backs he took in the first 3 rounds, none of them are. I don't think one of them has scored 20 points yet. Am I wrong in that?
Bijan's probably been close, but the other guys definitely have.
Bijan hasn't. Rashard White hasn't yet, and ETN hasn't. So it's kind of like he went bully RB, but we don't have the bullies present in the room with us. You know what I'm saying? Like, at this point, I mean, I don't know. You have to tell me how you feel, but Bijan Robinson's looking like we're kind of still waiting. If you look at his numbers from last year or this year, and the name didn't say Bijan Robinson, are you taking that guy top 10 in redraft?
Nah, I don't think so. I think the name carries a lot of the weight on for Bijan, honestly, and for like his entire team. Like, I don't think it's that terrible. They just have not been living up to like their potential. Obviously, Kincaid is a good tight end, but like the tight end wasteland out there is just fucking up everybody. So, I don't know. I hope things turn around for Wilson because I like the way he built his team during the draft. But yeah.
I mean, I don't think it's a question of the talent with Bijan. The talent's definitely there, but it's just combination of, I guess, a couple different things that are out of his control, have been out of his control since the start of the year. But then when we go wide receiver, I mean, I said this about Zay Flowers since day one, and I said it to you in Dynasty. I mean, we saw Sunday night versus the Bills is how the Ravens want to play every single week and just run the ball. And that's going to be how they're going to play for a majority of the time. I mean, I don't know the schedule all part, but when they're able to, they're gonna pound the rock. And we saw that on Sunday night as Derrick Henry went crazy. And Zay Flowers ended the game with 1 catch for 10 yards. And that's probably going to be happening a good amount this season when the Ravens are up. So for that to be his wide receiver 1, it's just kind of tough when I'm his wide receiver rooms. I don't see anybody there who really, besides, I mean, Christian Kirk, if the Jaguars are playing behind a lot this season, maybe, but I don't know. I just don't see it happening for Wilson right now.
Yeah, so I also have Wilson at 10, and I mean, when you look at a lot of people's teams, like those who have gotten off to slow starts or have struggled, it's mostly due to injury. But when you look at Wilson's week 1 lineup right now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think anyone's gotten hurt. It's just been straight up
No one's got hurt.
disappointment, poor production. I mean, ETN and Rashad White are the low-hanging fruit. When you draft backs in the top 3 rounds, like, you need these guys to be constant, day in, day out producers. ETN and Kirk just it's unfortunate. I mean, Jacksonville's the only 0-4 team in football. Like, they look like a complete train wreck. I mean, you know, coming into the year, I had hope for them. I drafted Trevor Lawrence. I thought, you know, maybe this team could be one of those ones that take the next step, but I don't really know how much better it's going to get for them. Like, Christian Kirk has been so bad, he can only get better. But in terms of ETN, like, everyone wants to say, oh, yeah, PPR, he's going to catch all these passes. Like, go look at his targets. I don't think he's had more than 17 yards in a game. Like, I could be wrong, but I don't think he's done a lot as of late. And the other 2 receivers, I mean, as a Chicago fan, I love DJ Moore, but our passing offense, it's not one to have stake in right now. Bijan, I do believe in. Like, I have a pretty strong feeling that down the stretch he will get better. But in terms of the rest of his team, I think he's got to try to package Kirk and Flowers and get a more reliable producer because, like you said, Flowers, Kirk, I mean, these guys just can't be trusted, unfortunately.
Yeah. Moving on to number 9. I have Love Hurts. I feel like Kevin's team could be ranked higher. But I mean, the 0-4 stamp just has to hold a little weight, So I have Kevin here at number 9, but I don't think Kevin's coming out by any means right now. The teams that are all 1 and 3, which would be him, Wilson, and Ty. I see him staying above them getting above them at some point in the season. And I don't really think he's that far behind the 7 seed at least. I don't think his playoff hopes are done right now because he's 0-4. He saw him do it last year. He started off 0-5 and made the playoffs. I think Kevin, where his team gets a little, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? Shaky or more so unpredictable, I would say, is with Olave and Calvin Ridley. It's like at least Olave, the Saints offense has been good. You could kind of count on him maybe to get better this season, but Ridley, I don't see it happening for him. Unfortunately, that offense in Tennessee, like Will Levis, I don't really have much faith in. But Josh Downs could come back and be that guy we saw last year that catches a lot of targets. So there's hope there in his wide receiver room. I think he's got pretty strong running backs. Josh Jacobs is the guy in Green Bay. We saw what Joe Mixon did when he was healthy so far. So I like Bucky Irving as well on his bench. I'm not really as down on Kevin's team as a lot of other people are. I think it's unfortunate he's 0-4, but I think he's got a lot of room to get better.
Yeah, I mean, if you even look at points against, he has either the second highest or even the third highest. But Eddie is already Eddie's already talking trash, and I would like to see him back it up this week because we did see him lose terribly to my team. So he could continue this oh, I have it all made, I have it all ready, but at the end of the day, he doesn't
This isn't about me. Stick to.
Okay, anyway, I'll stay on topic, but yeah, I guess I could see Kevin's team getting better down the stretch, especially with Josh Downs, like you said. And if Wan'Dale Robinson becomes that PPR scammer as he had been the last game at least, then maybe he has something to work with. I think the 0-4 is just unlucky at this point.
Not that it's not. I don't want to say it's unlucky, but when we compare it to the teams that are in his range, if you look at the points for and against, they're not they're really performing much better than him.
Yeah, that's true.
I'll briefly get back to Kevin, but for the time being, my number 8 team, or 9 team rather, is actually Andrew with the Millimeter Peters. Part of power rankings, I like to kind of blend the line between management and the teams themselves, and that's not a shot at Andrew by any stretch. Although he did, correct me if I'm wrong, was he the one who spent $100 on Tucker Kraft?
Yes, that was Andrew. He spent $100 of his. Let's see how much he has left.
I mean,
so
hey,
he had 200, so he spent half of his fab on a Tucker Kraft.
I mean, Dallas Goedert was doing great for him, but I guess the bye week necessity, also the upside he might offer. I don't know if he had to spend 100, but
I mean, I probably should have targeted him in the free agency. I just wasn't really looking at tight ends, but yeah, spending 100 is kind of outrageous, I would say, especially this early in the season.
And I mean, that's not why I have him down this low, but just a point worth mentioning being, it's something that happened very recently. We're doing power rankings for this week. Andrew's one of the teams that comes to mind that's been hit by injuries the most so far. Pacheco, we don't really know if he's coming back. He's lost Smitty for a couple of weeks now. He's had some guys step up like Dobbins, but we don't really know if they're going to be reliable producers. Jacoby Myers could end up being another one of those sneaky kind of plays. But when you look at the rest of his lineup, I mean, it's Josh Allen, who's probably the favorite to win MVP right now, and then kind of just everyone else. Like St. Brown has been as advertised. He's, steady Eddie. You're going to get what you expect from him every week. But at least at this point in time, he hasn't shown us any crazy boom games. And in that Detroit offense, I don't really know how many he's going to be called upon for. The rest of his receiver room, Rome, who had one nice day, T. Higgins, Sutton, these guys, I mean, say Josh Allen has a bad game. I don't know if any of these guys are bailing him out. And, the running back room right now between Ty Chandler, Najee, Dobbins coming back from bye week, maybe Nick Chubb at some point. But I think there's more question marks than answers in this starting lineup right now. And not to say that's entirely his fault. Injuries suck. But for this point in time, I got to put him on the lower end of the spectrum down here.
So number 8, I also have Andrew. Well, no, you had him at 9. I have Andrew at 8. Yeah, you kind of hit the nail on the head there. He's suffered through a little bit of injuries, but when you look at his team, if Josh Allen isn't scoring that like 30-40 ball, it's kind of really dependent on what these unproven guys could do for him. I don't really want to repeat what you're saying, because I kind of got the same thought process here. But if when he gets his guys back, I think things will be up for him. Looking up for him. For right now, at this very point in time, it's looking a little wobbly.
Yeah, but that's definitely not to say that he can't. Once those guys come back from injury, he can't bounce back. I mean, he is 2-2 right now. He survived the first 4 weeks, so I think at the end of the season we'll be talking about a different Andrew than we are right now. And I hope he doesn't like spend 100 on the next waiver guy. That's just gonna, I don't know. Especially when you have Goddard, man. I'm sorry, I don't want to keep like hammering this in, but
I mean, when you look at the tight end landscape, though, like this is where, like, why I mentioned the management, though, because I don't think Andrew's going to make any trades. I think he's kind of seen the writing on the walls, especially with what's happened this past week. Like, we've seen our first questionable trade, to say the least, and I think Andrew's just kind of hanging on the outskirts. Like, yeah, I'm good off all that shit. Like, I'm not going to indulge in a trade, even like say Goddard continues to be great and Kraft also, like, people will be hitting him up. I just don't think he's going to answer any of the calls. Like, with an opportunity to upgrade his team, I'm just not sure. Like, the only deal he's made so far is Taysom Hill for Nick Chubb, which, I mean, why not? He didn't really need Taysom Hill. Why not take the throw on Nick Chubb? So I think he's going to be a bit on the more like cautious end, but we'll see if he, defies that. But in terms of my number 8 team, now we get to talk about the 0-4. Let me check again. Do my eyes? Is that the only 0-4 team in the league? It appears so. And Kevin, what's your excuse? Because I mean, other teams, first rounders haven't played yet. First, second, third rounders hurt on the shelf, out multiple weeks. CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott haven't missed a game. They've been there from week 1. I think it just comes down to drafting and management. And I don't have you buried at the bottom because I think your team has more talent than the ones I've mentioned to this point. But I just don't know how much better it's going to get. You run into a buzzsaw this week, and down the line from there, where are you getting your wins? Because Calvin Ridley's not moving the needle. Evan Ingram's not moving the needle. Wan'Dale Robinson, the PPR scam, isn't going to move the needle on a consistent basis. Josh Downs, you could say the same for. Joe Mixon's already got a sourpuss. So, you look at this team, if you can brace and survive the CD and Dak boom weeks, I think you're good here. And this week against Pittsburgh, we'll get to the pick'ems later on, but let's just say Suck My Dick is feeling pretty good this week, because even look at the bench. I mean, I forgot to mention Olave, but he falls into the same breath as everyone else I mentioned. No one's scared of Chris Olave. No one's scared of Darnell Mooney, Javonte Williams, Bucky Irvin. It's a team of mid, and it's a mid owner riding the ship. So
I am gonna have to say that Calvin Ridley in the 4th round was, oh god.
That's when it comes down to management, because the pick before Calvin Ridley, correct me if I'm wrong, was Malik Neighbors, who he was honed in on. But that's why you got to have a plan B. And I'll tell you, Calvin Ridley was not the answer there. So 0-4, and I don't know if this team's digging out of that hole. As bad as some of the teams are, it's Dak and it's CD. Who else are you scared of? Let's come back to Kevin. You two have the floor. Who else on this team are we making a case for?
Well,
I really like Josh Downs.
You like
I
Josh
like
Downs?
All right, this is my thing, right? If his running backs, I feel like his tandem is he's got two workhorse running backs and two high scoring offenses in the league. You know,
On paper, sure, but look at what's Jacobs done.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Yeah, but I mean, you got to think if he hasn't scored a touchdown the first 4 weeks, he's gonna score at
Let him score
some
this
point. But outside of CeeDee Lamb and his wide receiver room, yeah, I get where you're coming from. You're not necessarily scared of Crystal Lobbies because his quarterback's pretty mid. I said this. I mean, I was also saying this. The round 4 Calvin Ridley pick was not the move. And I think it's costing him right now because there was just like a plethora of playmaking wide receivers that went right after him. I mean, I know he's hurt, but Rice went after him. I mean, I think Cooper's better than what we've seen from Calvin Ridley so far. I know Jaden Reed went. I think Pickens also went. Just a lot of guys that were in better. Not so much the talent is that much here, but I just feel like coming into this year, you had to know like Titans' offense was just not somewhere you wanted to be invested into.
No, yeah, absolutely not.
But
I think we bullied him enough.
Yeah, that's enough time spent.
Was that was your number 8, right?
Yeah.
All right. My number 7, I have Curry Satriales. So I'm just gonna say off the bat, it really why I have Mike this low compared to where he was 2 weeks ago. I mean, really, it's just an injury standpoint. That trade for Neighbors, which wasn't when I first saw it, I thought you had gotten really the better part of that, just considering the depth you got in that trade. But then you could also look at it the same way as if those guys, Ayuk. I mean, you got Ayuk and who was it? Yeah, Ayuk and
Jordan Mason. Yeah, that's kind of a little bit ridiculous.
At first glance, I thought it was a little ridiculous. Then when I looked at Mike's team more, it kind of made sense. I mean, him getting Hill, Neighbors, and Rice as his wide receivers 1 through 3 was kind of nutty. It's just unfortunate that Mahomes annihilated Rice's knee in the coming days. It kind of just killed his depth like completely. After that, and then when you take into account two injury, Chain and Hill are just borderline not really startable. When we look, I mean, I watched the entire Monday night game versus the Titans. This offense is not going to be scoring points, not going to be moving the ball, not going to be making big plays. Chain and Hill were smash picks when they were made, and they played that after we won, but it's unfortunate two went down, and we're playing with a quarterback like I picked up off the practice squad. It's not even like you're getting a guy like Joe Flacco or Andy Dalton who were starters for 10 plus years. Like Tyler Huntley isn't doing anything for you really. So yeah, I have Mike 7 here, but it's kind of out of his control what happened. So yeah, I'm gonna hand it off to you.
Any comments on Mike D, or you want to wait till I talk about him?
You could talk about him. I don't really have too many thoughts. I think injuries really just got the better of him, and I mean, I'll talk now. If injuries got the better of him, and then like if we look to that trade, he was too trade happy to try to pull the trigger, and we see it's the first 4 weeks, injuries could happen. Now he has all that depth just gone, and he's just like nothing to show for it. So I like. That's basically it. What I think about Mike's team. Like, hopefully he could make some kind of like semblance of something on this team, but it's not looking great.
We'll have to take a brief pause talking about Mike because we're going to transfer over here to the one who's known as the King of Spite. And I'm sure he'll have something to say, huge chip on his shoulder about his ranking down here at number 7. But I look at Julian's team, and it's just like, I mean, sure, Henry right now looks great. He just had an amazing game on prime time. He went for 150 yards in the game prior against Dallas. I think he was a yard short of 200 this past Sunday night. He's kind of, carrying this team right now. But look past Derrick Henry just for a second. RB2 is a joke with Jerome Ford. I mean, no one is scared of Jerome Ford. Nick Chubb's coming back, so Ford's days of even being like rosterable, startable, whatever you want at that point are numbered, in my opinion. The Browns' offense in general, I don't think you really want any staking, even if you have Amari Cooper or Njoku coming back from injury. I don't think you're really excited having anyone right now. McLaurin, as of now, looks pretty good, tied to Jaden Daniels. But maybe I'm just a hater, but I don't really see like Terry McLaurin putting up a crazy, like he's never finished inside the top 20. And if he does it this year, I don't think it's going to be by much. Like, oh, wow, everyone remembered 2024, the year Terry McLaurin finished wide receiver 18. Like, I just don't think it's going to be that impactful. JSN, we're still waiting for the consistency and these big aha breakouts. I mean, even some of the big name guys he has, like Kittle, Debo, Mahomes, I think they're better names, better real life players than they are fantasy assets. I mean, listen, I was a believer in Mahomes coming into this year too, with everyone they surrounded him with, the speed, the vertical threats, but this offense hasn't really looked much different than the one we saw in the playoff stretch last year. And even Julian's confidence in that is showing because he went out and picked up Geno Smith. Mahomes is on the bench now, so your fourth round pick is essentially giving you nothing. I don't think we've seen the best from McBride yet, but again, Kittle and McBride like are we flexing both? Like, what's the long term outlook there? So I know he's been struggling with AJ Brown on the shelf, but down the stretch, I don't know if this team is going to be a needle mover as a whole. I think it's just going to fall somewhere middle of the road, maybe slips in at the 7 or 6 seed, but not too much to say. I guess we've entered the mid range or mid tier, you could say.
Yeah, I guess the thing about Mahomes is like the Chiefs just know how to win without having to like
Air
do
the
too
ball out.
much. Yeah,
Yeah,
do too much
exactly.
crazy shit. Like they just know how to like get the touchdowns, stop them on defense, and then win the game. Um, I guess Ford is gonna fall off, and then I mean I guess the only suggestion I can make for Julian is trade one of them tight ends to me or to someone, and see what we could do. But
I mean, yeah.
Moving on to number 6. Number 6, I actually have Fear Peter's Tigers. Sonny's in third place right now. The reason why I had him, I guess, at number 6, I had to factor in points for a little bit. Couldn't just look at the record. Not that I'm low on Sonny's team. I think Sonny's team really, when I look at it, it's really a matter of whether or not Anthony Richardson can, I guess, end up being, I don't want to say that he's not startable, but these past 3 weeks have been really rough. He put up 9.85. Got hurt this week. He put up another 5. But when you're taking a quarterback, the second quarterback in the draft, and I forget what round it was, but it was like round 4, beginning
I
of
think it was
round
around
4.
4.
Right at the 3-4 turn, yeah.
Yep.
Right at the 3-4 turn. Was he taking? I mean, not that it matters, but he was taking over Mahomes, or
He was taking over Mahomes,
Yeah, I think
Hurts.
only Allen was the one taken before him.
yeah. Well, so when you make that bold of a flag plant, as Ed would like to call it, with Anthony Richardson, and just not looking like a very efficient quarterback right now. I think he completed like 9 passes, 17 passes one game, and then he got hurt this week. And when I look at his wide receivers, unfortunately, the wide receiver he took first on his team, Garrett Wilson, I just when he was hyping up this Aaron Rodgers, Garrett Wilson connection, I just don't see it coming to the fruition that people think it's going to be. Aaron Rodgers was a quarterback who was known for making plays on the run, kind of evading pressure, not rushing or scrambling, but you know what I mean. Uh, making plays with his legs just as much as his arm, creating plays and he's players Achilles, and he just doesn't look like he's really moving like he used to anymore. And losing that part of his game, I feel like really just makes him a mid quarterback. And I just think that Garrett Wilson's not going to reach that wide receiver one status. Like you said with Andy Dalton, if they keep him in, then yeah, Deontay Johnson to the moon. But if they bring Bryce Young back at any point this season, anyone else in that wide receiver outside DK Metcalf, it's not really nobody threatening that much, if you know what I mean. Ontavian Wicks had a great game, but I feel like there's a lot of mouths to feed in that offense. I do love the Brock Bowers pick though. Great pick by Sonny. Kareem Hunt's looking like he might be the league back in Kansas City. And James Cook's been good this season. So if Andy Dalton could stay in, I think Sonny's definitely a playoff team. But I'll pass it off to you.
Yeah, I guess fixing the quarterback issue, and if AR is able to like become that number 2 quarterback taken off the board that like he actually wanted, then he has something. I mean, like I wouldn't say he has a bad team. I think it's definitely a good team. It's just we'll just have to see how many points Richardson could put up, and if that like hinders him enough, then I could definitely see a team with even just like a middle of the pack quarterback just beat him.
So at my number 6 team, as I look at the team right now, it's really kind of going out on a limb having them this high. But I'm trying not to hone in on this week's prognosis or even the next couple weeks, because with Mike's team, I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. We're still awaiting the Rashee Rice news. Regardless of what it is, I don't know if the best case scenario is 2 to 4 weeks anymore. If anything, maybe it's a late season return or a miraculous return for the Chiefs playoff run. But in terms of the fantasy season, I'm almost positive Rice is going to be done. But then you look at the rest of this team, you still have some heavy hitters. I count 3 with HN, Hill, and Neighbors, but 2 of them are currently being anchored by the Dolphins organization. So I have Mike placed at 6 right now, assuming that week 8 comes around, Tua comes back. This team's going to look a lot different because you have 2 basically week in, week out, 20-point producers you can rely on that have upside for more. And even if you have some holes in the other spots in your roster, you can kind of Dr. Frankenstein that, as I would like to say, find the cheap 8 points here, a cheap 11 there. And, as long as your juggernauts are getting it done, then you're still going to come away with wins. But as it stands right now, his lineup, I mean, I don't know if he's going to win up until week 8. I'm currently staring at 3 Dolphins in a row with Achane, Wright, and Hill, and it's just not a pleasant sight. Neighbors also could miss this week, so that would be a nightmare for him. But, on the bright side of things, we won't talk about how he got him, but Laporta has joined this team, who's a part of the, Potence Lions offense. Jonathan Brooks, a lot of people have a lot of high hopes for him. The Panthers offense is humming, so Mike probably has the widest range of outcomes right now of any team, and a lot of it hangs in the balance of Tua and the Dolphins, and it's just kind of a wait and see situation. So I feel like his placement here, kind of middle of the pack, is appropriate.
Yeah, and if you look at his schedule, like just his fantasy schedule, he's kind of got a difficult one. He has Sonny, then Cass, then Justin, then me, and then Kenny. And I think that's like the top 5, like consensus maybe. So we'll see how he does. Could he manage a win? I definitely think so. Mike's a good manager. Like he could find some good players on the waiver wire. He could make some trades. I mean, we saw some trades this week. We want to get into his trades, but
No, thank you.
but yeah, I think I think, like you said, if the Dolphins can fix it, he could end up at being at like one of the top teams. Or if they don't fix it, then he's just free falling right now. And there's like no end in sight.
Yeah. Moving on to number.
5.
Sorry,
Okay.
I just got weird text from someone. Moving on to number 5, I have Barnegat Cass. Cass's team just got a whole lot better this week. With the news about Price, unfortunately. I feel like the Chiefs have no other answer but have to get Kelsey the ball now. Like it has to happen. Jaden Daniels is currently QB1 in fantasy. If he could keep this up, I mean, what a gem. This reminds me of Lamar going in round 15 when I had him in 2019. I think Jaden Daniels was like the last quarterback taken in round 12, 13 or something like that. I mean, when you got QB1 that late, it's kind of hard for your team to just not be good, you know? When I look at his wide receivers, Jefferson is still doing Jefferson things. I mean, with Sam Darnold. So, like, you got to feel good about that. I actually think Drake London looking the best he's looked in his career so far with the Falcons. Stephon Diggs, I personally thought was gonna be either the wide receiver 2 or 3 coming into this year. I didn't know that he would look as good as he has through these first 4 weeks. I think things are looking up for him. It's kind of looking like Tank down, maybe the odd man in that wide receiver room. But yeah, going forward, I think Cass has a lot of solid pieces to build on. I mean, James Conner didn't look good last week, but it was kind of because the Cardinals are such a weird team. Like, they'll look great, like, and then they just go and get spanked by the fucking Commanders. Like, it's so weird. But yeah, I mean, Zach Moss has been a very viable RB2. I don't really see a lot of holes on Cass's team right now. Oh, he's got Dave Montgomery on bye as well, so just picked up Traceman. So Cass has some depth at RB. Maybe he makes some moves and upgrades somewhere else. I feel good about his team going forward.
So for my number 5 team, we'll come back to Fears Petus Tigers briefly. Right now I think the arrow is pointing up for Sonny. He's got some low-key guys like Chase Brown, Brock Bowers, Antonio Wicks. Like these are the kind of under the radar guys into the year who are starting to see their value go in the right direction. I know Garrett Wilson's been a big disappointment so far, but to be fair, he's gone through a very tough part of his schedule. When you look at like the matchups and the corners he's faced, it hasn't been, the most ideal situations for him just yet. I think down the stretch he's going to see some better matchups and we'll finally see some boom games. But Anthony Richardson is really acting as an anchor. That was a flag plant, and that flag was put in quicksand because, I mean, all the narratives are coming true. He can't play quarterback and he's hurt, and it's week 5. I don't know how, if he turns it around, I don't know how meaningful it's going to be. So quarterback's probably always going to be a question mark for him. James Cook, any part of that Bills offense, I'd be happy to have. Gibbs has been solid. McConkey, another under the radar guy who's starting to go the right way. Deontay. So the sneaky team, it's not like prime Tyreek Hill or Antonio Brown out there, but he's got a team, probably one of the most complete team, give or take, quarterback. Skill position wise, he's going to get his production, basically every week. It comes down to, can he figure out quarterback to make his team that much more dangerous? But I feel like number 5 is pretty fair for Sonny at this point in time.
Yeah, I agree.
Moving on to number 4, I'm actually higher. Pause. I'm higher on the Cardiac Kids team than you, and
do tell.
I don't know. Maybe when I watched that game, on Sunday, maybe I'm just biased because I got the Sunday Night Miracle nuke dropped on me, but Henry is like he has not lost a step since. I mean that play where he went on the 87-yard touchdown run, he outran the entire secondary. Like this guy has not progressed at all from what I've seen on Sunday night. And the Ravens are going to want to play like that, like I said before, every single week. And I don't think it's out of the realm of possibilities where Henry could actually RB carry this team. AJ Brown's hurt. I think once AJ Brown comes back, Debo just came back. I mean, in comparison to McLaurin, Shaheed, JSN, Debo, and AJ Brown is a pretty good wide receiver room. I will admit he does kind of have a black hole at RB2 once Chubb comes back and that backfield gets kind of split up. But he's also got pretty solid at the tight end position. He's got McBride and Kittle. Quarterback, sorry, blanked out there. Quarterback is the only position. I know Geno Smith just threw for like 400 yards the other night. If I had to guess, probably not going to happen every week. And if he's alternating, I mean, actually, no. Now looking at his past games, he hasn't been too bad. It's 18, 20, 11, 23. I mean, if he could average 17, 18 points a week for Julian, I don't think he'll really be in any trouble. So,
Fair.
Yeah, that's good. That's definitely good analysis.
So as the middleman here, do you see the glass half full or half empty for the cardiac kids?
Listen, I think the glass has to be half full. I think the only downside about this kid, man, is he kind of just like stagnates towards the middle of the season where like I don't see him making a move or making a trade. And even if he wants to make a trade, he's not like aggressive. Like I don't know if you guys ever been in trade talks with him. He doesn't really like try to lure you in, try to car salesman like he can.
Yeah.
And it's just
Funny
that
enough,
might
he sent me a
pique me
trade today. You want to know what he sent me?
what he sent you?
Jordan Whittington for Jalen Waddle, and I got the offer. I declined it immediately, and he sent it right back to me as if anything mistake.
Yeah, this kid was trying to. I will say this is where we differ in our rankings. I think you taking that. Maybe I don't take in the managing aspect in the power rankings. I mean, this is the kid who missed playoffs in a format. I'm pretty sure we only ran 2 wide receivers, right, in a flex.
When he had Hill and Jefferson?
When he had Hill and Jefferson,
what year was that?
I think it was
it might have been.
2022. When was the first year we did 3 wide receiver?
I don't know if
think
it was
last
21
year.
or 22. No, it was last year.
Either way,
our third year, yeah.
Either way, yeah. Back to what I was saying. He missed playoffs when he had wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2. I don't know if that's a feat that can be defeated. Maybe the rest of the time he played this league. That year we had 8 teams making the playoffs. You only had to finish out of the bottom 4 to make the playoffs. So for that to happen, just puts on display the managing skills. And so yeah, he could definitely bottle it going forward. Like it is in the realm of possibilities. So
We will see. That brings us, we're on number 4 now, right? Or we've been on number 4?
Correct.
Number 4. So that brings me to the Barnagaya Cass. Forgive me if I didn't say that right. But I think it's time we give Cass some of his flowers here because I know it's early in the year.
Posted in the group chat, like, I wonder how the pod's going.
I'm just waiting. Sonny too is texting me. Is it going down right now?
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, you're good. Back to what I was saying with Cass. I think it's early in the year. We'll see how things play out. But at this point in time, this looks like probably the strongest team he's ever put together. Like you said, he's got QB1 right now with Daniels, but he's got no slouch right behind him in Joe Burrow. So that gives you the leverage to play the best matchup. One guy gets hurt, one guy's a bye week. You're going to experience no drop off at quarterback, which I think is an advantage, especially, with a different matchup every week. It's just a nice luxury to have. Running back, no hole, Connor, Monty, sure, in PPR fantasy might not be the flashiest guys, but they've scored a lot of touchdowns already. And as long as they're out there, they're not going to stop. Jefferson was probably the when you looked at the expert consensus rankings in the offseason with like first rounders and where they went, like Jefferson was probably the most overlooked guy just based on his situation. Like talent wise,
Yeah.
obviously he didn't lose a step. So he hit a home run with him where he got him at 5. Like you mentioned, Rice going down, Kelsey, as long as he's out there and healthy, he's going to the moon. He's going to be a top 3 tight end without question. Diggs, London, I don't know if we've seen the best of them yet. I think they still have room to get better. You got, a lottery ticket on the bench with Keon Coleman, who knows? Even Romeo Dobbs. Everyone talks about Wicks and Reed, but Watson's out. Dobbs is going to be out there getting more looks too. So as a sneaky flex play when you need him in a bye week, we already saw what Juwan Jennings can do. Like he's got options, he's got depth, and he's got guys who can, single-handedly win you a week. So pretty dominant team, honestly. I don't have a lot of questions other than maybe I put them a little bit too low. But
No, I definitely see the potential for Cass' team there. I'm just kind of more at a standpoint. I want to see it a little bit more from Kelsey in this coming week before I believe it, and all that kind of jazz. But going to number 3, I actually have someone who's on the podcast with me right now. It sucked my dick up. Ed's team, and I will say you probably have the best running back room in the league.
is that counting McCaffrey or counting Mason?
Well, I kind of count them as one.
Okay, that's fair.
But I don't know. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I don't think I would take anybody's 3 running backs over yours right now. You just got Hurts, which made your team a lot better. The only thing for me, when I look at your team is when I look at your wide receivers. As of right now, without Cup, still I feel like we got to see it from Worthy and Ayuk, which could very well happen. And Jaden Waddle is kind of on the side I was with Mike's team, where he's really not going to be anything while Tyler Huntley is under center. But I will admit Ferguson is looking very nice. I have him in my work league actually, but he's easily the number 2 option in that Cowboys offense. And I think it was something like, what did he have last week? No, 2 weeks ago he had 11 targets. And Dak loves him. So, in a year where tight ends is looking really shaky, and a lot of people overdrafted them, having Ferguson there is very nice. And so if your wide receivers, if they could step up to the plate, while Cooper Kupp is gone, by the time Kupp comes back, I think it's looking pretty good for you.
Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
I don't know how. I mean, I understand how you swindled that trade with Mike. It's just because he was swinging for the fences and he thought his team was great, and injuries. He thought he was untouchable and invincible. And I understand Mike's point of view, and I also understand why you would take that trade instantly, because you got so much depth that you essentially got 4 starters from that, especially with Rice going down. Now that Worthy becomes like the number 1, number 2 wide receiver on that team. So yeah, I guess I can't have anything bad to say about Eddie. Caleb Williams is going to be shit this year, rest of this year. That is probably the only thing I got to say. You need a quarterback, and you just got Hurts. And so, like, I don't know. There's really no holes anymore. Even with Cup and CMC going down for you early in the season.
Yeah, I mean, to briefly touch on the trade with Mike, like, I felt sick immediately after sending Neighbors. I didn't really sleep very well the next couple of days. It still weighs on me because right now it looks good because Worthy stock is up a little bit. But I mean, Neighbors is a top 5 receiver right now, and it's probably going to finish no less than top 10. So I think it was a good deal for us both at the time. Obviously, if he could do it again, and full disclosure, I offered him we could do the same trade back. I'll just keep Mason, but he doesn't want to do it. So
Yeah,
if it's a
right.
deal breaker, then so be it. But I appreciate the Ferguson love. He was at the top of my board of must-have players this year from the start because I knew I could, like, part of me with Kyle Pitts, like, I have the fetish, whatever the fuck. I got rid of him finally, but Ferguson was always plan A. So,
Hmm.
but that's enough of me. We'll move to my third team, which coincidentally is also here as my co-host with the Uzumaki clan, who originally I think I had as my number one team. So down just a hair after the Sunday Night Miracle. When you look at this team, I mean, Chase is just starting to hit his groove, so that's gonna play a big role. If you eventually go higher in these rankings, he'll have a lot to do with it. Marvin Harrison has shown us he can be a baller, but then, like you said, the Cards are just kind of a weird team. Like his first game
Yeah.
was shot. Even this last week with Washington, he scored a touchdown, but then I think he
They're
pretty much
still not throwing the ball enough.
it's a weird situation. I don't really understand it. So like putting Harrison and Neighbors in a vacuum, like as shot as the Giants are, I feel better with Neighbors because he's getting the ball. Like
Yeah.
Harrison has the better quarterback, better situation, but nonetheless, as your second receiver, a stud completely. But I mean, tight end, again, you're kind of hedging the situation. Andrews, who we thought on the original podcast was like such a steal, this and that. Like
Yeah.
I don't even know how much longer you roster him or should roster him at this point. Probably more of a pride thing than anything. But that and flex is where I have you separated from the two teams I have on top of you right now. Because Amari Cooper, like I mentioned earlier with the Browns, I don't want any part of it. Maybe he gets traded. I've seen some NFL rumors that he gets sent to the Chiefs and this and that. But as it stands, I'm not big on Cooper. Evans has shown some, volatility in terms of his week-to-week production. You get a layup matchup like Washington, he brings it home. You get a layup matchup with the Eagles with rookie corners, he scores a touchdown. But in those tougher matchups, like with Denver against the top corner, Tampa's shown us they're not going to force feed him the ball. So I feel like he's more of a matchup-dependent third receiver who, don't get me wrong, given the right matchup, can win you a week easily. But I mean, Kyler, I have higher hopes for the rest of the way. I feel like him and Marv will continue to grow together. Kamara, I'm pretty sure, is the number one back right now, which is really surprising to me. Historically, I've been a Kamara hater. Naturally, I just want to lean to of course he'll regress and it'll come back down to earth. But as of right now, you can't take anything away from him. Your biggest weakness right now is obviously between tight end and RB2 with Ramondre Stevenson potentially being benched for fumbling in 4 straight weeks.
Yeah, I'm gonna start this week anyway.
You weren't going to start him anyway, but
I didn't start him last week either.
I feel like you have a lot of strong pieces that can carry you, but I think there's a couple. I think you're more vulnerable this year than last year. I think you have some more.
Oh yeah, I'll never have a team as good as I had last year. That was just
last year was nuts.
Pure luck, some might say, but
for right now, I'm sure you're happy with where you're at, even after.
Yeah, only place I really when it comes to Mark Andrews, my only hope is like at some point down the stretch they're gonna need one of the two with Likely and Andrews. Like maybe not right now. Like there's not gonna be much for either of them in the immediate future. But I feel like once you get to December and November in those late games, like you need guys that have been in those situations before to step up for you, which is the only thing I'm really holding out hope for. As for disagreeing though, I don't know. I love Amari for situation right now. I mean, yeah, Watson's looked bad. This guy is getting a floor of 10 targets a game. Like if he had taken that 82-yard touchdown to the house and there wasn't that phantom holding, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. This guy is easily going to get over 150 targets this year, without question. He's easily the most talented wide receiver in his wide receiver room. I mean, he's got probably some of the biggest boom potential, which is why I'm fine playing my flex. If I took this guy and he's like my wide receiver 2 or even 3, then I'm like feeling a certain way about it. But I'll put him on my flex every week for the rest of the year. That's how I feel about Amari Cooper. I mean, when you saw what he did last year in the playoffs, he single-handedly advanced people to the second round of the play, or it was either the second or the championship playoffs. I still think he's the guy. Yeah, he's gonna put up 5 points. Like I'm ready for that. But he could also put up that 50 bomb he did last year. I mean, Watson's not scared to throw to him. I feel like the Browns' offensive line has been really bad to start off the year. But if they get their chemistry right later in the season, I have high hopes for Amari Cooper.
It's fair.
But everything else you said, yeah, Ballard, I agree.
Yeah, good analysis, Ed. I also agree with what you said. I think Justin's right. If Cooper could definitely have those boom weeks, I mean, you're playing for the boom bust, like for that position, and that's what your flex really needs to be. If you don't have a boom bust guy in your lineup, like you're kind of just throwing the league if you're trying to go all floor the rest of the way. So I think that's a good strategy, and I do have you rated highly as like in the power rankings as well.
And my number 2, I have the Diego Juniors. Diego, I will tell you, I know it doesn't make sense to say this. You probably have the best team, but I just got to put some respect on that 4-0 that Kenny has. So that's why I have you here at number 2. Yeah, I mean, you pretty much nailed. I'm not gonna go back and look at it, but every pick you made regarding wide receiver looks like a hit, all the way down to Shakir. So, I mean, you got crazy depth at wide receiver. Nico Collins is the wide receiver 1 right now, and doesn't look like he's gonna be stopping anytime soon. Brian Thomas Jr. looks really good. I mean, Jaden Reed looks really good. I don't want to just sit here and glaze, but the only thing you could say about your team is that you don't have a tight end. Um, Even though I still think CJ Stroud might have been a little overdrafted, I think you could have. But considering where you hit on every other pick, it didn't really make a difference on your team whether you waited or not to get a quarterback. Kyron Williams has done better than I thought he would. I thought he was honestly going to suck this year. But he's been pretty good. And Brees Hall hasn't hit his stride yet, so I can't really, other than tight end, I can't really give you any criticisms here. All the way down to your bench, you got pretty solid depth too. So
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I know you're gonna have me at either 2 or 1, so I'm waiting. But I I think tight end is a super overrated position. I'll say this on the pod, man. Like you, especially this year, you have guys going out there like. I mean, we'll go through who people are throwing out. We got Pitts, Taysom Hill, who needs a touchdown to even be relevant. And then Kraft likely, like, they both had one boom week, so it's just, and so did Kmet. So it's like you really I don't see like, oh, you guys, you need a tight end to really like fulfill this like.
I mean, when it comes to your team, I would say is an exception just because of how well you're drafting wide receivers, or not even just wide receivers, really the rest of your team. But when you're talking about teams that don't really have that great of a supporting cast around them, tight end can make a difference. But I see where you're coming from.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna self glaze myself too hard. I literally went perfect from round 3 up until like round 8. I think I went perfect, and I could only say that like maybe I should have drafted a tight end earlier and like forgotten one of these wide receivers, but I don't know. I think down the stretch I'll be fine.
I'll have to restrain myself from the glaze because at number 2, I don't know if it's a hot take to put Farmer Ken at number 2. He is the last remaining undefeated. But when we factor in, and honestly, that's why he's up this high. Like, it's because I think your team's better than him. I think Castro's team is better than his on paper. But I don't know if we should count Kenny's management against him or for him, because I'm not really sure how it works in his favor or works against him, because, I mean, here we are. Somehow he's 4-0. No one was really that high on Barkley. Like, he stumbled upon the RB1 through the first month of the season. Jordan Addison comes back from injury. What does he do? He goes out there, scores 2 touchdowns on like 4 total touches. Kenny like exists outside the realm of all expectation, like with his moon emojis and shit. Like, you really have to start to believe it at a certain point. As I look at his team right now, Tyler Conklin, Antonio Gibson, Austin Eckler and the Redskins. It doesn't look like a 4-0 team by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
But he is 4-0, and he is Kenny. And, at some point, I'm sure he'll come back down to earth a little bit, but I hope he continues to do his thing. And, we see him in the playoffs and maybe even come back for some redemption for his tragic loss to Kevin this year's back.
Yeah, I mean, I have Kenny number 1. So, if he was 4-0 and he was like third in points for, I mean, he scored the most points out of all teams in the first 4 weeks. So that's why I just gotta respect him, put him at this number 1 spot here. I do agree with what you said. It doesn't look like a 4-0 team, but it's the highest scoring team in the league. So, whether you want to call that he has a top heavy team or what, I just gotta respect him here and put him at 1. I mean, he did get Saquon at a pretty good discount. I mean, what was Saquon, the third running back, fourth running back to go?
Yeah, it was a fourth. CMC, Brees, then Bijan.
CMC, Brees, Bijan. Yeah, so we got Barkley as the fourth running back taken. Lamar Jackson is the number 2. Chris Godwin, it's resurgence has been great for him, but definitely a little bit more cracks in the well than the other teams higher up here. I will have to say, but.
Yeah, I'll bring it home here. My number 1 team, I saw it up close and personal last week, just how dangerous it could be given the wrong week with the Diego Juniors. I feel like I put up a good fight, but this team has back-breaking potential. No, I guess pause that shit potentially. But when you catch Nico and Stroud, like, sure, you can make a fair argument that Stroud in the 4th round, like in a vacuum, is a bit of an overpay. But when you get that, like his boom weeks tied to Nico's boom weeks, who's the number 1 receiver through the first month, like it's almost impossible to, overcome that. And then you look at the incredible depth littered throughout. I mean, Bryce Hall scored 4 points last week, and you still dropped 140, 150 on me. Like that's a feat within itself.
Kyron wait. I just want to say this. I had 2 players score under 5 points last week, and I still put up like 140, like you said. I can only go up from here as long as I pick in the right matchups. Like I can only go up.
I mean, I agree. I don't think it's any mistake with this ranking at number 1. You have the deepest receiver room in the league, probably headlined by the top scorer so far. I still lose sleep. I mean, I wish I paid more attention to his brain being scrambled eggs, but between Nico and him, like, and even between Cup and Nico, like Nico was right there for me, and it's bittersweet to see him blossom so much on your team. But sure, tight end looks like a problem, but if your team continues to fire the way it's been, then I'm not sure it's even going to matter. So kudos to your draft and your strong start to the season. I'm sure you'll be a contender all the way through, even with injuries. If and when they come, you have good enough depth to weather some storms, as long as they're not too bad.
Yeah, I will also say, like, if I don't pick right, I could have horrible weeks. I put up 97 week 3 because I put JMO and ETJ, and then on my bench I had Shakir going for 19. So it's like having that much depth might even be a problem, and I like that's just on my mind, a little bit of concern that I have for myself.
I think it's good you're aware of that. First step, some people are negligent to shit like that.
Did that end our power rankings?
That ends the power rankings.
Yeah, that was an hour. Moving on, we have our next segment, Pick'ems. I'll start off with what I have as the lock of the week. I have Theo Peters Tigers over Kearney Satriali's. Not much to say here. I don't want to exaggerate, but this might just taking everything into account. Tyler Huntley under center. This is one of the poorer lineups I think I've seen throw out in a week. I mean, if I'm assuming someone's going to pick 12 players tomorrow to start at running back, but if H.A. and Wright really both get thrown out there, that's really tough. Jalen Polk, Juju Smith-Schuster, both of them fresh off waivers. Not sure. But yeah, it's unfortunate for Mike. Like I said before, it's not like he really. I mean, he took a risk with that trade, giving away some depth. But for it to happen, literally, it happened before the Thursday night game, and then it was Sunday. So 3.5 days after he made the trade, everything just went to shit. It kind of sucks. But I don't really have too much to say about this matchup. I don't see him. If this lineup that is set right now, he can change it, is thrown out, I don't see how he wins this game.
Yeah, I'm not going to waste any time here. Sonny, basically, there's a couple teams on bye week this week, and no slight against you, Mike, but especially if Neighbors doesn't play, there's not even.
I didn't even take that into account. If
Yeah,
Neighbors is out,
it's 0%. Like crazier things have happened, but like this won't be one of them.
Yeah, this is definitely my lock of the week as well with Sonny. There's really just nothing going for him this week. It's just having 3 Miami players and knowing that they are out of their quarterback, like you just can't really win. Honestly, it's just impossible.
Yeah. So going on the next matchup, we have Barney Cast versus You Wish. I have Cast pulling this one out. It's projected to be a close game. I don't think it will be. I think Kelsey. I mean, I just have to imagine a world where it's Kelsey's like homecoming game this Monday, Monday night. I think they just have to get in the ball. Like, there's no way they don't. Um, Justin Jefferson has a little bit of a tough match. I'm assuming he's gonna be shadowed by Sauce Gardner all day. So I guess there is a world where Wilson. I didn't even realize we have a Diggs revenge game too. Like, he's got to go crazy. Jaden Daniels versus Cleveland. I mean, Jaden Daniels has been snapping lately. I don't know if the Browns will do anything to stop that, but yeah, I got Cass coming in this week and getting a W and moving to 3-2.
I actually have You Wish as my upset of the week over Cast. I look at some of Wilson's matchups, some of his disappointing players like ETN and Kirk. The Colts defense is Swiss cheese right now. I think T-Law is a competent enough quarterback to get those guys home. DJ Moore, also a revenge game with the Panthers. I don't know how much that means given the current state of our offense, but I don't think Castro's going to go out there and lay an egg. But if there was ever a time for Wilson to have a boom week, I think this would be the week for it. I see the makings for it, and I think Castro should be on upset alert.
Yeah, I got Wilson here, but it's not by much. I think Castro's team is very good. It's just I honestly, this pick is kind of me rooting for Wilson. I want to see him have a better season than him just like fall into misery. Like you guys all touched on all the matchups. Like I honestly see a world where Kelsey just doesn't perform as well as we think, even with the Rice being out. That I think the Chiefs have solved football. Like, they know how to win without doing anything, dude. They could do whatever they want and still win. They could run it. They could pass the ball. They could play just defense and win the game. I seriously think that the Chiefs are that much better than any team in the league. So I'll have to see that if Travis Kelce puts up a monster game, then I could see Castro winning for sure. But if not, then I think You Wish has a really good chance, and I'm picking him. All right, next game.
Oh, I'm sorry. I zoned out. Moving on to the next game, we got Diego Jr. versus Child. Please, not gonna say too much about this one. I got Diego winning this. Really kind of like a Diego versus Goliath matchup here. I mean, Diego's team is hot. Just looking at Ty's wide receivers, I mean, he's got Trey Tucker versus Denver. It's are Keenan Allen to get Tucker and Lazard. I just don't think it's getting it done this week.
I'm not going to waste a lot of time here either. Diego Juniors.
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys.
Our next matchup we have is Cardia Kids versus Farmer Ken. This is what I have as my upset of the week since Kenny is 4-0. I have to win DNW here. Kenny's got his best player on bye, which I don't think he's going to be able to overcome. Because I think Saquon snapped every week so far, right?
Pretty much, give or take.
Yeah, he got 13 as a floor, 14 as a floor. So it's like, but he also has 2 insane boom weeks with 35 each. So he really might just be like on the hinges of if Saquon has a really good week, then he probably just wins the week. And if he doesn't, if he has like a
I
midweek,
don't
then
really see anyone else in his lineup for him providing like that. Providing enough. I don't see enough players stepping up and replacing what Saquon's given him so far. So yeah, Julian's team, Henry versus Cincy could be another Henry. I feel like we're at the point where Henry where any week really could be a new week for him. So I mean, you just gotta wait and see. But yeah, I got Julian in this one.
Yeah, unfortunately for Kenny, I mean, I don't think it's impossible. I mean, I think Swift could, believe it or not, have another strong game. I think Pittman, if Flacco plays, we could see the Pittman of old age. And just knowing Kenny, like this would be the 30-point Michael Pittman week. We expect Sauce to the shadow Jefferson, so maybe Jordan Addison gets home again. I don't think it's impossible, but I think it's definitely an uphill battle for Kenny without Saquon this week. So I'm also picking Julian.
Next we have what I have as my game of the week. We have Love Hurts versus Suck My Ditka. This one actually was really hard for me to decide who's winning this year. Like one side of me, I I want Kevin to win, but on a more logical side, I have you winning, Ed, just because like what you're saying before. I mean, nobody really sticks out of Kevin's lineup if CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott don't do something. Sunday night versus they have a tough matchup versus Steelers. We saw them kind of shit the bed already this year. I'm kind of also banking on the fact that they don't really do that well versus the Steelers, which is why I have Kevin losing because his factor is X factor is CeeDee Lamb.
Can we back it up for 1 sec though? Why do you want Kevin to win?
I don't want to see him go on 5. I mean, I know everyone hates Kevin, but
You want to see him go out that sad. I see.
yeah, it honestly it puts the league like at a lower tier when Kevin is performing this
poorly.
poorly.
Because at that point, it doesn't even come fun. Like he can't even sing. What is he gonna say back? Like,
just deflated. Like there's nothing you can do.
He's gonna start focusing on a different league. Like it's just not gonna be fun for him. It's not gonna be fun for us to bully him anymore. You're right. In this game, I have Kevin winning. Surprisingly enough, I think Olave goes out and shows off and shows up a big week. I think and if Joe Flacco's playing, then Josh Downs has a definitely uptick in his like receiving potential, as we saw last week at the end of last week. So I think he has a chance. It's just I think there is more boom potential on Eddie's team that Eddie could just put up 140, 150 right now this week. So it's either Eddie puts up a dud week and then Kevin wins, or Eddie puts up a really big week and he'll just destroy Kevin. And I'm rooting for Kevin.
It's crazy.
Okay,
yeah, nothing personal. Not it's I want to see you lose. You know, it's just kind of sad to see someone go out like that. Like,
No, I understand.
But yeah, last matchup we have Uzumaki Clan versus Millimeter Peters.
This is honestly on the same level of the Sonny and Mike game. Mike, have you seen Andrew's team this week?
Yeah, I know it's tough.
It's no slight against him, but I mean, it almost makes me sick because there's 2 really good matchups this week between Wilson and Castro, and I feel like between me and Kevin, and I feel like every other game is just a like mail-in, almost uncompetitive. Like
if Mike versus Andrew was this week, that would be
exactly like that would be a good matchup. But as it stands, yeah, this is a like non-compete. Like there's just nothing there. This is a deflating pick this week.
Yeah, with the bye weeks he have and his injuries, it's looking like a serious uphill battle. I think Uzumaki Clan takes this one. It's actually my lock of the week.
Right, my fucking I was looking at my bye weeks and my fucking week 11, bro. I got Kyler, Martin Harrison, Mike Evans, and Hubbard all on bye.
Hubbard. You really think we're still going to be caring about Hubbard at that point?
Yeah, I do, dude. I actually do. I think he'll be. I don't think he's gonna be like putting up 25 points a game like he is right now. But I don't know. Jonathan Brooks. I'm questioning his talent. But the ACL. I mean, is he gonna come in and all of a sudden Hubbard's gonna be gone after the first week? Like, I don't think that's how it's gonna go.
No.
That also depends if Bryce Young comes in at that point. Yeah, then I
sell all Panthers. Yeah.
as long as Andy Dalton's in though. Like, anyway, so that was it for our pick'ems. Wow, we actually had a pretty long show, hour 16. What about you guys want to say anything?
All I want to say is thanks for having me, and I have the best team in this fucking league, and all you guys are gonna lose to me.
With that, buddy.
Kev, whatever wager you want to do, listen, this week is like, I don't know, like it's not my Super Bowl because obviously I want to make it to that point, but you know how this rivalry goes back. In the past couple of years, I don't even know the last time you beat me, to be honest. We can go back and look through, but whenever it's you and me on the schedule, I seem to bring my A game. This week will be no different, and I look forward to it and just seeing you miserable at 0-5. I have no problem being the one to put the nail in your coffin, and I look forward to Monday Night Worthy doing just that. So,
all right. Well, if you listened out to the whole time, thanks for listening. You know, we appreciate you guys watching. You know, this gets put on. We don't make any money off this. This is purely for the love of the game. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Wish everyone luck in week 5. Hopefully no more devastating injuries. And we'll see you back here in 2 weeks.
Peace, guys.